Designed as a third-generation machine, the RX-110 Gabthley was intended as one of the first mass-production transformable mobile suits used by the Titans, and the people working on this thing were some of the best that they had to offer. The main design team had previously worked on the Gundam Mark II and were therefore intimately familiar with the workings of the movable frame technology. Thanks to this, the transformation was smooth, and the size of the machine could be kept to a standard 18.5 meters. And the other part of the team was Paptimus Scirocco, a man who was as famous as he was infamous and had previously created the deadly Masala all by himself. So for the development of the Gabthley, he was able to take what he learned from designing the Masala and applied it to this brand new machine. The mobility of the Gabthley was excellent, and it was also armed to the teeth with powerful and varied weapons. On the forehead, it had a single Vulcan gun. On the skirt armor, there are two scattering beam cannons, which aren't really supposed to be used as weapons, but more to blind the enemy, similar to the scattering beam cannon that is installed on the Dom's chest. But to really damage the enemies, we have to look at the arms. Here we find two 0.55 megawatt beam sabers and a 4.2 megawatt megaparticle cannon per arm. And not only were these megaparticle cannons powerful, but they were also jointed, so they could easily lock onto enemies, whether the Gabthley was in mobile suit mode or in mobile armor mode. And for even more firepower, both long range and close range, it also got the Fedayeen rifle. On one end, it was a powerful 6.6 megawatt beam rifle, and on the other end, it was a beam saber. And apparently, the claw-esque things that were on the stock could also be used as melee weapons. The weapon was developed by the Albert Company and was powered by an E-cap rather than the more modern E-pack. For its final weapon then, we have to look at the transformation mechanism. Hidden inside of the legs are claw arms. These claws are powerful enough to crush an enemy mobile suit, but they aren't usable in mobile suit mode, so to use them, the Gabthley has to transform into its very insect-like mobile armor mode. Plus, when in this mobile armor mode, the Gabthley was one of the fastest machines around. And on top of that, it also had somewhat of an intermediate transformation where only the legs would transform, allowing it to use those leg claws while remaining mostly in mobile suit mode. This in-between mode would then later on also serve as an inspiration for the Barzam high mobility type Vervain, which is a machine that you can learn more about in my Barzam development history, linked on screen and down below. But yeah, whether it was close combat, long-range combat, or anywhere in between, the Gabthley was an extremely lethal machine and showed great results during testing. There was only one problem.
Camille! Murderer! Why do you always have to do this?
There were only two problems. Because of its high specs, the Gabthley ended up being a pretty expensive mobile suit, and production was halted after only a few units were produced. In the anime, we see 3 units appear that were used by Jared Mesa and Mauro Faro for testing, but during combat, all 3 would either be lost or heavily damaged. Jared's first unit was destroyed, Mauro's unit was destroyed, and Jared's second unit was heavily damaged and never appeared again. In the Gundam Valpurgis manga then, 2 more standard Gabthleys would appear as wingmen for the restored Balinoak Samon, making for at least 5 machines, or 4 if one of them was Jared's unit that got repaired. And on top of that, we also have a few customized units. And the first 2 of these were meant to operate as a pair. The Gabthley Hugin, piloted by Ernest Maguire, and the Gabthley Munin, piloted by Cyber New type Ross Weiss, both named after the information-gathering ravens that belonged to Odin. And true to its namesake, the Hugin had its nose cone modified with a Minovsky particle detector, and the head was modified with more powerful sensors. The other difference then was that the Gundam Kestrel's Shaman frame was incorporated into this machine so that data could be gathered for installing it into the Gundam skull. This was a quasi-psychoma system that made a mobile suit more responsive by linking the brainwaves of a pilot to the drive system. Ernest was not made aware of this last change and was therefore also not aware that he was acting as a guinea pig. In terms of weapons and other things then, everything remained the same, resulting in a base performance that was about equal to the standard Gabthley. For the Munin though, this was slightly different. Because it was made with a Cyber New type pilot in mind, it did get mobility and response time upgrades. Other changes then were a different head, a different nose cone, and also the inclusion of the Shaman frame. But in terms of weapons, it was again the same as the standard Gabthley. Our next variant then has some more substantial changes. With the Titans fielding ever more advanced transformable mobile suits and transformable mobile armors, the top brass decided that they would like to establish a unit that was composed only of such machines. And a new Gabthley variant was commissioned to act as the lead mobile suit of this new unit. This machine was the Gabthley Beta. While the basics of its body and the transformation mechanism remained the same, it was significantly upgraded in several areas. The head received stronger sensors, as is befitting of a commander-type machine. It got a shield that could also act as a booster, which was no doubt inspired by the shield boosters of the Titans test team, and it also got a new array of weapons. The shoulder-mounted megaparticle cannons were replaced by missile pods on the skirt armor, and the Fedayeen rifle was upgraded to the Fedayeen Rifle Mark II. A much bigger weapon that also had much better long-range capabilities. And for extra close-range capabilities, it also received a claw arm on each lower arm. Overall, it was quite the upgrade, and it would see combat in the waning days of the Grips War. And the final variants that were made during the war were these two units modified to test out the Nitro system, which was intended for use in the Psycho Gundam. Visually, they were identical to the standard Gabthley, but when the Nitro system activated, the mobile suits would start emitting blue flames, and the old-type pilot inside would get pseudo-new type capabilities. It's not known if these units were actually used during the Grips War, but afterwards, they would be used by Titan's remnants. And they would also give these machines different handheld weapons. Instead of the Fedayeen rifle, both Gabthleys would dual-wield the XBR M84A beam rifle equipped with a double E-pack. And as a finishing touch, they were adorned with a camouflage cloak. When the Grips War ended then, whatever Gabthleys remained would most likely be stashed away by the Federation because they were too closely linked to the Titans. And, you know, the Federation wanted to get rid of everything related to the Titans. But some mobile suits were just too good to be put into storage, like the Byarlant. These were instead overhauled to look less Titan-esque and were then upgraded in various ways. And the first of these variants was the Byarlant Custom Unit 1. It got a Federation-style visor head, extra propellant tanks, extra shoulder thrusters, bound dog-style feet, and arms that were made out of the Gabthley's claw arms. And if you want to find out more about this unit, you can check out my Byarlant development history video, which is also linked down below. Many years into the future then, we are introduced to another Gabthley variant in Crossbone Gundam Dust, the Gabrello. The most striking difference with the standard Gabthley is that it now has two chainsaws for the arms to increase its close combat capabilities. It also has a blade sticking out of each leg, a more insect-like face, and also some minor armor differences. The real biggest difference then is the shape of its nose cone, so that when it changes into mobile armor mode, it resembles the Gabrello, which is then of course also where the name comes from. It's a combination of Gabthley and Gabrello. But this resemblance to the Gabrello is done mostly for aesthetic reasons, because its pilot really liked the funky looking mobile armor. Also, because of the size difference, it is highly unlikely that any actual Gabrello parts were used in this machine. And finally, we have another machine from Crossbone Gundam Dust that might use some Gabthley parts, the Otengu. It is described as a mixing build that uses parts from various different machines, but none of them are known anymore. Looking at the arm, the body, and the legs though, I feel like some Gabthley parts were definitely used here. It was armed with a long-range Vulcan on its head, 4 micro Vulcans on the collar, 4 large Vulcans on the chest, and something that looks like a kanabo with a long handle. Combat records are virtually non-existent for this machine, but it is estimated that it was very effective for short engagements, because of course, it came packing with a lot of guns. And that is all for the Gabthley's development history. A very insect-like transformable mobile suit that was in a way too powerful for its own good. But despite not being approved for mass production, it would still get quite some variants, which would then give the Gabthley quite a long service life. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and stay tuned for more similar content in the future. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.